Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to VTP Stage 2 Online Technical Tuesday Coaching Call 189 for the 21st of April 2026. I hope you're well. I hope you've had a good start to the week. I hope you're enjoying once again another eventful week in markets. It's been another eventful week and an eventful month and an eventful year, hasn't it? So plenty as always for us to talk about. As always, you're very welcome here. Just remember that you are always responsible for your own trading decisions. If we particularly look at let's go on to sterling then, okay? So we'll just have a quick run on sterling. I'm not going to go into too much because, as I said, everything's coiling up. What I do now will probably have changed massively in 6 hours. After those we get the sort of insight of those chats, okay, and everything will happen. But hopefully you can see what's happening there with sterling working the way it is. What have I got here? Bang. Cable on that 4 hour, euro sterling, pound Aussie, pound Canadian, FTSE, pound New Zealand, pound Swiss, and pound yen. Okay, so listen, cable we can have a look at anyway. The daily chart, having had a great run up, I'm looking at this price today. It's bearish key reversal, key reversal, pin bar, but then it gapped. It couldn't get beneath the 8, and it's holding. And as we've just said, there it is. Cable squeeze between the 50 and the 20, and I think that's what happens there this morning. That is kind of a case of the reflection on those the Ollie Robbins. He's taking the fall basically, but he did get a couple of jabs in. All right, that basically made it realize that it was driven by Starmer and his office, and invariably, I think there is another debate this afternoon that we'll see, and what we'll be expecting to see is that does this pressure continue to build for Starmer to resign, because of course markets hate uncertainty. My own opinion, for what it's worth, here we are, 21st of April, the local elections on the 7th of May. I suspect what will happen is that he'll be put under a lot of pressure until then. And then if Labour do as poorly in those elections as they are expected to, that is when the pressure upon him to go will become too much. I think he'll carry the can for the local elections, and I think that's the way we will work with that. But you can see that on the kind of pound against the dollar there. Interestingly, pound against Japanese yen. Let's go up to the daily chart. Once again, we had this kind of great run here, kind of a bit of a risk on run, which kind of topped out a little bit, and now we're sort of trying to decide which way we work. Interestingly, the 4 hour chart was just a fantastic trend, right? That's just a STAM trend, okay? Buying strength, selling weakness, and we kind of rolled off there at the end of last week. And now, if you look at that, once again, we are coiling up there between the 20 and the 50. But look at how price has just found support on that 50, hasn't it? Price has just found support on that 50. So, if there is war off, risk on, and if Starmer is seen to survive, I think that is positive for pound yen. Okay, and we push higher again. If there isn't a good response, okay, from the talks, and we now go to kind of a war on, risk off, and if maybe Starmer is forced to leave, well then basically I think that 50 breaks and we work our way lower. Okay, so it's kind of it's interesting price action there, and it's waiting for a catalyst to basically move it. And as I said, we do have some UK data, okay, quite a bit of UK data this week, but I think some of it will be overshadowed. A lot of it will be overshadowed by the Iran war and also the Starmer's position. That's where I think we will be. Pound against Swiss franc is kind of as I was going to use the word mercurial, but that's not the right word at all. All right, if you look at that on the daily chart here for pretty much the last month, fabulous if you are an intraday mean reversion trader, which I am. But if today, if you're looking at a swing trade, okay, and trying to establish position, there's just not much joy to be had there. That's pretty difficult to trade. And so what you do, well, you just sit in your hands and watch what happens. intriguingly, what we did see, as I said, is we saw sterling kind of sort of drift its way there, fall its way down there quite considerably. Now you can see there, okay, that's what's coming off there. But as you can also see, that it's yeah, it's not particularly pretty price action to try and be traded as a swing trader. If we look elsewhere, okay, go look at a few of the condols. Pound against Canadian dollar, nice downtrend, double bottom, work our way up, flip the 50. Okay, 50 here is acting as great support, and if you'd have taken short trades off that as tactic number two, I wouldn't have had a complaint with you or anything. That would have been absolutely fine. But then what we saw is bang, that's kind of Canadian weakening because oil's weakening because it's kind of war off, risk on. And then sterling over the last few days, I think that's just a reflection of the, as I said, of the kind of UK position at the moment. 4-hour chart. I was looking at this last week. We gapped down. We worked our way up, and then we finished with that really nice bearish engulfing candle, key reversal. People who are stretching might say, well, that is just a very unprofessional, scruffy evening star. But then, we've got a domino candle here dropping its way through. We've just been working our way lower from that. Okay, that's been kind of a nice move in that sense. Pound against Aussie, same as well. All right, we have just worked our way lower there. Okay, it's kind of almost like the opposite of the pound yen, isn't it? So, as sterling is weakened and Aussie strengthened, that's that kind of risk on move, as I said, and that is, we've sliced through 190 there, okay, and worked our way lower on that. Pound against New Zealand dollar, interestingly, we had this has been pound New Zealand dollar does this, all right, it goes through periods of just being, kind of pretty tough, pretty miserable to trade. And then you get a lovely trend, and then you get basically a nice, clear double bottom, and then you get a lovely trend. And then basically it's starting to I'd say that is kind of peaking its way out there, okay, in terms of it's breaking its way. And now, not unsurprisingly, you've got sterling weakness and Kiwi dollar strength because of that inflation numbers last night. And and now we are, as I said, we are basically getting caught up here, getting caught up in this kind of price action here in between the moving averages on pound against New Zealand dollars. We're waiting for the catalyst. And I suspect that kind of Iran war is going to be the major catalyst. Finally, euro against sterling on the daily chart. I think I said this yesterday. Is that this could be, is this a bang, a cup and handle that is getting ready to blow? Is that one version of it? Is this just a bull flag? Okay, certainly at the moment, if you look at that, the 50-period moving average, that daily 50 is holding as support. But then equally, you've got these wicks here giving us this trend line. So, you'd be looking at that as a descending triangle at the end of a little bit of an uptrend. Okay, so I'm going to look and see is that just going to basically squeeze? All right, is that going to squeeze? And then once again, is there going to be a catalyst, whether it be some formal data or the next move in the Iran war that basically blows that pattern? So that's where I would see us there with that at the moment. So not terribly easy or pretty as a swing trader, okay, at that moment in this particular, particularly all of those currencies because of the nature of the volatility we've seen in these last 6 weeks with what's going on in the Persian Gulf. Okay, let's leave it there, traders. All right, let's draw it to a close there. I hope you found that useful. Hope that's given you a little bit of help and insight into your own trading. As I said, it's going to be another eventful week, so make sure you're on top of the news flow. Make sure you're on top of your risk management. Make sure you're on top of the order flow. Okay, trade smart, all right, and as always, I wish you the best of success in your own trading endeavors, ladies and gentlemen. Have a fabulous trading week, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care and trade well, everybody. Cheers.